Hello, guys, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Youth Have a Voice podcast. If you're new here, my name is Feolami Joseph, and today I am joined with a very special person. Her name is Abigail Maina. So, Abigail is from Kenya and she just recently finished high school, and she's very passionate about farming, and she's also very passionate about amplifying youth voices. Is there anything else you'd like us to know about yourself?
All that I know that I'm passionate about empowering the youth and just being an example to the rest that they can achieve more than what they think of and more than what they dream of, regardless of where you come from.
Okay, thank you very much, Abigail. And I recently discovered we're the same age, we're 18, and you are also a Yale Young African Scholar, and you're also one of the 100 Wise Winners who won a few years ago. So, would you like to share your experience with us? How did that feel? And basically, what have you been able to learn from that experience?
I think it was such an uplifting thing because you realize that maybe your efforts that many people might not even congratulate you and what you do in your community. Some people might just look at it and just brush you off, but being recognized just gives you that peace and gives you that now empowerment that I need to now continue serving my community. And it's a very important part of my life because I really care about my community. So being engaged in such programs that challenge you, that give you even the resources that you need and tell you, this is your project, this is the way you can like create, like magnify it, and all that. So it was such an uplifting thing. And I can say that I recommend everyone to just find such programs and apply for them.
Okay, thank you very much. I think when we were talking recently, you were telling me that you like farming. So would you like to tell us about your experience growing up in Kenya? What was that like? And basically, how did you get into the loving for farming?
Okay, so growing up in Kenya was a very different experience from majority of the other Kenyans that I know of, because I didn't know that first language would play such a big role in my life because I began speaking English compared to Swahili, which is the main language in Kenya. And that really brought a new perspective to me because and especially going to a different school that wasn't like the national system, because I had now a global perspective to stuff, but I lost connection to my Kenyan roots because of that. And it began first by learning about African history and then learning even more about my family because majority of my family members are farmers. My grandparents were farmers. My parents grew up farming when they were young. And then there's me who grew up in the city of Nairobi, nowhere close to any farm, surrounded by skyscrapers and what. So farming came about as a sense of peace to me. It became like a source of comfort to even connect with my family, connect to now even the people around me, because you find out that majority of Kenyans, about 70% of Kenyans are involved in agriculture. So that's how it came to be. And then my love for farming just grew, became so much more, especially when I now was doing a research on the role of agriculture in Kenya, and I was like doing research on why is it that even though 70% of people are involved in agriculture, majority of them live below the standard, the minimum, and below the minimum wage. Most of them live below the poverty standard. And I was like, why is that? So I began researching methods on farming, what's the issue, and that also now helped me learn to love farming more and helped me connect with my community to see how I can help them solve also their problems.
Okay, thank you. I think you're the first person in Gen Z that I have spoken with that actually enjoys farming. Or I don't think I've ever spoken with anyone my age who does farming. So I find it really cool. What would you say your favorite part about farming is, or what kind of crops you enjoy farming the most?
I enjoy herbs because like I love tea. I'm addicted to tea. So herbs and just adding that aromatic taste to tea is just amazing. Cocky docky, but it's one thing. But the one thing I love about farming is that it gives you peace. Touching the soil, just being out in nature, just is so bliss that it gives you a sense of freedom. And farming is quiet. Farming doesn't have issues. It's not political. Farming just cares about you do your role, I do my role, the soil does its role, and they work together. And I guess you can learn a lot about farming because the entire role, the entire aspect of farming just dwells about working together with people. And I guess it reminds me of how even us as young people need to connect with each other and help each other because the seed needs the soil needs water. So it's a chain. And it's the same way even as young people, we also need to help each other. You might be good at something else, I might be good at a different role, and we all need to support each other for the benefit of our country, for the benefit of our continent.
Okay, thank you very much, Abigail. So, basically, I know you are very passionate about youth. How do you think more youth can be involved in terms of agriculture and basically understanding how harvesting and planting works for the ecosystem?
I think one people first need to open their eyes to the needs of their community, and they need to pretty much be open to see the need and not just imagine what they need, but look at the problems. Talk to the people who are involved. I remember learning something that said that to solve a problem, 70% of it is learning what the problem is. 30% is the solution. And I think for us to even be involved in agriculture, we need to understand what farming is. That means talking to farmers, because you learn a lot about farmers. Farmers are the basic bonds and the basic foundations for our country. If there are no farmers, you don't eat. That's the basis. And that's one thing. For young people, you need to realize there's so much wisdom from the farmers that we have. There's so much wisdom from the people who are involved in agriculture. So seek wisdom, seek understanding, and engage in learning from other people because that's how you grow.
Okay, thank you very much. So basically, I've noticed that your hands are in so many things, which is really important. And as our generation, a lot of people in our generation are in so many activities at the same time. So you do farming, you're good at leadership, you're good, and you also want to study law, I believe.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So basically, how do you think all these things intertwine with each other? And how do you think this has been able to build your self-confidence? And what would you tell other youth to do in order for them to also be able to build their self-confidence based on your experiences?
I think to build your self-confidence, you need to get an understanding of who you are as a person. So it has to be a journey of understanding self. And you have to realize that you're not just built just by one thing that you love. A great human being is one who is interested in learning. And I guess that's one aspect about me. I might have a passion in farming, but I also have a passion in advocacy and leadership. And learning and being eager to learn helps me take aspects of leadership that I can also imply or even use in other aspect of farming. And I think that's one thing I can say. As young people, to become self-confident, you need to begin your journey of self-understanding and explore, try many different things. I have tried running businesses, I've tried so many things. And because I was open to even making even mistakes in now some of the things I've done, it's helped me have a better understanding of who I am and to learn also from other things. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. So, where do you see yourself in terms of a career pathway? Do you see yourself in a career pathway regarding farming, or what kind of law would you like to specialize in? Basically, where do you see your specialization kind of laying its eggs in?
Wow, that's a question I've also been debating, but I find myself, I would enter law. I don't know the exact area, but I do know I will use whatever I learn, especially understanding the law to benefit farmers, because farmers are a marginalized community. Most people don't give them the respect, neither do they give them support that they do require. And I guess that's one thing I would do, because I am passionate about agriculture. I know future on in my life, I will own my own farm and enjoy it. But in future, I see myself advocating for the rights of farmers so that they can be supported, so that they can continue what they do, which is an important role in our communities.
Okay, I do hear you when you say that farmers are sometimes stereotyped or marginalized. So for young people who may want to go through this pathway, based on your experiences and some of the things you've been able to accomplish, how would you say that young people from marginalized communities would be able to find some of the opportunities you've had access to? In what ways can they find them and use them to their benefits?
I would say number one, take advantage of LinkedIn. I can never emphasize that enough because that's how I even found out about Yale Young African Scholars Program from someone who had connected to because we had the same interest in Model UN and seen that they have participated in this program. More than that, be open to talking to other people who you admire or who you think that can mentor you. So even if it's not even online, people who you even see in your daily life, I have a mentor, and I guess that's something young people need to do. Connect with older people and learn from them, and also connect with people who are the same age as you. So by connecting with them, you also learn from them, and together you can build company. You can build what you say, like even a podcast like this. Connect with people your age. Third of all, be open to first supporting your community. I feel like the day I finally chose to help my community, that's when even my doors were open for new opportunities. So connect with your community, and from there you even get to meet new people that you would have never met if you're just stuck in your own box or your own bubble. So I would say young people, be open to learn, search online, use platforms that you normally use for just entertainment, and use them to learn. And you realize that if you're open to learning, you can get opportunities. That's why you see young people who even use Instagram or TikTok. Just for some people, it's entertainment, but for other people, it's a source or a platform to learn. So I would say use the gifts and use the talents that you have to serve your community, and also document that. If I wasn't open to sharing about what I'm doing in my community, I'll never be able to support my community to the way in which I have been right now. Yeah.
I totally hear you. I always say the internet is our best friend right now. Through the internet, you can find so many opportunities, as you rightly said. Personally, I try to use the internet for both my personal entertainment life and then also for finding opportunities to better develop myself and improve on myself. So yeah, I completely agree. So in terms of some of the opportunities you've been able to find, what would you say some of the challenges when it came to applying for where? And basically, what tips would you give for people in terms of application processes for either internships or just general applications for different things?
Yeah. I would say at first it's very difficult, especially when you're applying for international programs, to even understand what they are looking for, and even to how well can you present yourself. Because it was very difficult at first, because sometimes you think of people understand where you're coming from, but my experience is very different from someone who lives in, let's say, the UK, US, or even Australia. And I would say connect with people who have gone ahead of you, ask them about their experience. If they're even people who have come from the same country as you, talk to them. They understand your struggles, they understand what you're going through. Ask them questions. So don't be afraid to talk to people who have already reached where you want to reach. Second of all, I would say I encourage people to research, and be willing to learn. So use platforms like Reddit to understand programs. Talk to people who are already in certain schools you want to go to, or in a job that you want to go to. And then more than that, try develop some of your skills. You might want to apply for a certain job or something, but if you don't have what they're looking for, it's very difficult to get that job. So also focus on developing yourself so that you can, because that's the gateway, that's the door for you to enter some of those rooms.
Okay, thank you. So, as we wrap up, what would you just basically advise young people to do? So, people who may be younger than you or slightly older than you, what word of advice would you basically just give them for them to develop themselves better?
I would say and I emphasize it so much, serve your community with your skills. If you're good at music, teach people. If you're good at art, use your art to benefit your community. So whatever talent you have, use it to serve your community. And the other thing I would say, put yourself out there in the world. Don't be afraid to fail. Don't first think you have to create a certain perfect image for you to finally enter a certain room. Be open to learn from other people, try new things, explore. And when you do that, you'll be way better than even people who are older than you or even people who are 30. So don't just stick to the norm, but try different things, be open to learn, and just show people that you're someone who they can work with. Because people want to work with people who are open-minded, people who have a gift, people who have talents and who are using them for the greater good for community. So I would say young people, just serve your community, develop yourself in whatever thing that you're passionate about, and then the rest will fall into it.
Okay, thank you very much, Abigail. So, in terms of Africa and even Kenya as a whole, where do you hope to see the continent in terms of some of the things you're working on? And how do you think more people will be able to serve the continent to better improve it?
Yeah, I see our continent emphasizing the growth of youth because there are so many youth in our continent. I believe is it 70% of youth are of like the population in Africa under the age of 35. So I see our continent using the youth for benefit and taking advantage of the workforce that we have. And I see us as young people being open and not being rigid to the systems that have already been created. I see the youth now taking advantage of the minds that we have. I see the youth now even creating solutions to the problems that we have because the youth that are currently here are problem solvers. We're not interested in just continuing the way we have been for the last 30 years. And I think that's one thing I'm grateful for, that we have people who are interested in helping to support each other. I see the youth breaking boundaries so that we can even relate with other different countries. As a Kenyan, I can relate with a Nigerian, and each of us working together to benefit our countries. And that's one thing I'm very passionate about, that the youth are going to change this world and change Africa for the better. Yeah.
Thank you. So I strongly also believe in the empowerment of youth, but at the same time, we still have older people in government and in higher positions. So how do you think that the youth can collaborate with the older people, and what advice would you give to those who are kind of older than us to kind of understand how we think and how we can foster a better collaboration to improve Africa?
Yeah. I see the older people being open to the youth suggestions, and us as youth being open to even listening to the wisdom or the counsel that we have. The good thing about youth is that we are adventurous. We are open to try new things. And I think that's an aspect that the older generation can leverage. The older generation can actually see our ideas not just as mere thoughts or mere dreams that we have, but see our ideas as something that can work. Many years ago, people thought the internet was a crazy, absurd thing created by young people. But it's because the older generation at the time decided that this solution can actually work. And I guess that's the same thing we can also do right now. The older generation should be open to listening and should also create roles for us to play in government. We should have youth parliament for young people to even state their solutions, to state the problems that they have, to debate policies. And I think that's one of the ways they can leverage the youth.
Okay, thank you. So as we round up now, are there any things we can be looking forward to seeing you doing in the near future? Any projects you're working on, any initiatives or things you plan to do?
I'm still working on my rice project. So that's one thing I'm happy about. And very soon, maybe by the end of the year, I'll have secured farming funding so that we can now like elaborate or even scale my project. So that's one thing I'm happy about. Yeah.
Okay, so just for anyone who may be listening, would you like to shed some light on your RISE project? What exactly is it about, and what do you hope to see from the implementation of the project?
Okay, so my RISE project was centered on supporting a local children's home with um, vegetables that have been organically grown. So I noticed there's a problem, first of all, with the fact that this children's home that I'm working with was just reliant on perennial donors and working people to support them. So they never had funding. So when people, and Kenyans have a very interesting culture, we only donate foods and stuff to local children. So during the Christmas holiday, Easter, and sometimes once in a while during the August holidays. So majority of the months in between, these kids don't have a steady diet. And especially they didn't have fresh foods because most Kenyans donate foods that are easily stored that don't have that last for a longer period of time. So I noticed that most of those kids are suffering with malnutrition and they needed vitamins that can be found in greens. So my project was centered on creating a farm for these local children, so where they can harvest vegetables and then cook with them and feed the children. So every day they're able to harvest about 10 kilograms of vegetables, and that's been a blessing. And there were times that we harvested maize, we have harvested pumpkins that like about 10 kgs of pumpkin, very shocking, but that it was such an amazing thing. And that's pretty much my project. And my hope is now to secure funding for a greenhouse so that we can, and also funding for now an irrigation system so that we can also be able to harvest rain, water, and all.
Okay, thank you very much, Abigail. I find that really cool. Like I said before, you're one of the youngest people I've ever met, or probably the only young person I've met who is very bent and keen on improving agriculture. Like you said, we can't do without food. Without food, we will die. So I'd like to commend you a lot on the projects you're doing, and hopefully through this podcast, someone may be able to hear some of the things you've been doing and hopefully help and assist you in helping your dreams come true. So thank you very much, Abigail.
And thank you too.
Okay, any final words before we close the podcast for today?
All I would say to the young people listening to this, don't be afraid to try something new. I'd never found at a certain point in my life, I guess, and I'd never even, done such a project, saying that I want to go to a children's home and farm. I've lived in the city my entire life, so don't be afraid to be open to try new things and push yourself. You never know the result and you never know how you can impact other people's lives.
Okay, thank you so much, Abigail, for joining me today. It's been an honor listening to you and some of the cool things that you have been doing. So if you want to support Abigail, I'll be linking her social media platforms in the link in our bio so that you can follow her, speak with her. If you can help out in any way, I'm sure she'll be willing to listen to you. So if you enjoyed today's podcast, please make sure to share with your family members and friends. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you in our next episode. Goodbye.